For decades, the United States, Canada, and the European Union have been close trading partners. They buy and sell goods from each other. This exchange of goods is important for their economies. It creates jobs and makes products cheaper for consumers. These three economies are interconnected. What happens in one affects the others. The US benefits from trading with Canada and the EU. Canada is a major supplier of natural resources like oil and lumber to the US. The EU is a huge market for American goods and services. In turn, Canada and the EU rely on the US for innovation and investment. This interdependence has fostered economic growth and stability for all three regions. This system of global trade, however, is complex. It relies on trust and cooperation. When one country takes actions that disrupt this balance, it can have far-reaching consequences. In 2018, the Trump administration imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from Canada, the EU, and other countries. These tariffs are taxes on goods coming into the country. Trump argued that these tariffs were necessary to protect American jobs and industries from unfair competition. He believed that other countries were taking advantage of the US in trade deals. The tariffs were part of Trump's America First policy. This policy aimed to prioritize American economic interests, even if it meant disrupting global trade norms. Trump believed that previous administrations had negotiated bad trade deals that hurt American workers. The decision to impose tariffs was met with immediate criticism from both allies and domestic businesses. Critics argued that the tariffs would harm the very industries they were designed to protect. They also warned that the tariffs would lead to higher prices for consumers and retaliatory tariffs from other countries. As expected, Canada and the EU retaliated with their own tariffs on American goods. Canada imposed tariffs on a range of US products, including steel, aluminum, and agricultural goods. The EU targeted iconic American products like Harley-Davidson motorcycles, bourbon whiskey, and Levi's jeans. This back-and-forth exchange of tariffs marked the beginning of a trade war. This trade war created uncertainty and instability in the global economy. Businesses became hesitant to invest and hire, fearing further escalation of the conflict. The trade war also strained relations between the US and its closest allies. Canada and the EU felt betrayed by the tariffs, which they perceived as an attack on their long-standing partnerships with the US. The tariffs imposed by the Trump administration had a ripple effect throughout the global economy. The price of steel and aluminum increased, impacting industries that rely on these materials, such as construction and manufacturing. Consumers also felt the pinch, as the tariffs led to higher prices for cars, appliances, and other goods. The trade war also disrupted global supply chains. Companies that had relied on the free flow of goods across borders were forced to adjust their operations, leading to delays and increased costs. This disruption further exacerbated the economic uncertainty caused by the trade war. The tariffs had a negative impact on economic growth. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, estimated that the trade war reduced global GDP growth by 0.8% in 2019. The IMF also warned that the tariffs could lead to a global recession if the conflict continued to escalate. Section 5. The geopolitical chessboard, shifting alliances. Beyond the economic consequences, the trade war also had significant geopolitical implications. The tariffs strained relations between the United States and its traditional allies in Europe and North America. This strain created an opportunity for rival powers, such as China and Russia, to strengthen their influence on the world stage. The tariffs were part of a broader shift in U.S. foreign policy under the Trump administration. Trump questioned the value of long-standing alliances and often pursued unilateral action, alienating many of America's traditional partners. This shift in U.S. foreign policy created a vacuum in global leadership. China and Russia were quick to capitalize on this vacuum, expanding their influence in regions traditionally aligned with the United States. Section 6. China and Russia, seizing the opportunity. China and Russia seized the opportunity created by the trade war to strengthen their economic and political ties with countries around the world. China, in particular, sought to position itself as a reliable trading partner, offering alternative markets to countries affected by the U.S. tariffs. Russia, too, benefited from the trade war. The tariffs imposed by the United States on European Union countries created an opportunity for Russia to increase its energy exports to Europe. Russia also strengthened its military and political ties with countries in the Middle East and Asia. The trade war, therefore, had the unintended consequence of pushing China and Russia closer together. It also strengthened their positions in the global economy and on the world stage. Section 7. The future of trade, uncertainty, and hope. The future of trade relations between the United States, Canada, and the European Union remains uncertain. While some of the tariffs imposed during the Trump administration have been rolled back, many remain in place. The Biden administration has pledged to work with allies to address trade concerns, but it is unclear how quickly these issues can be resolved. The trade war highlighted the importance of international cooperation and the need for a rules-based trading system. It also demonstrated the interconnectedness of the global economy and the potential for economic conflicts to spill over into the political realm. Despite the challenges, there is hope for a more cooperative and mutually beneficial future for global trade. This will require a renewed commitment to dialogue, compromise, and a recognition of the shared interests that bind nations together. Section 8. A New World Order, Navigating the Shifting Sands of Global Power. The trade war initiated by the Trump administration marked a turning point in the global order. It accelerated the shift in power away from the West and towards rising powers like China. It also exposed the fragility of the rules-based international system that had governed global trade for decades. The world is moving towards a more multipolar system, where power is distributed among several major players. In this new world order, cooperation and diplomacy will be more important than ever. The United States, Canada, and the European Union will need to adapt to this new reality and find ways to work together to address global challenges. The future will be shaped by how these major players choose to engage with each other. Will they embrace cooperation or succumb to rivalry? The answer to this question will determine the fate of the global economy and the peace and prosperity of future generations.